this episode of Tiny Pulpit Talks. We are really enjoying doing these for you. Isn't it fun?
Absolutely.
We've been getting some really great feedback and some really great comments. We love hearing from you. That's one of the most important things, is reaching our folks and hearing more about what's on their minds, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Which brings us to our subject for today. At a recent gathering, a new visitor, someone here at the church, said to me, Beth, is it okay if I come here? And I was like, yeah, you're already here. No, I didn't really say that. She said, because I'm atheist. So I said, get thee gone from this place.
No, you said, welcome.
Yes.
You're at home.
I said many of our people here are atheists. And it struck me that that's not something we talk about that much. It's not something, it's a kind of complex issue, because I don't know about you, when I hear someone says I'm atheist, I am never quite sure what that means.
Yeah. Well, it does mean different things.
Absolutely.
And so you have to ask.
Okay. So, last time somebody told you they were atheist, what did you say to them?
Great.
That's why I love this church. Yeah, great. Okay.
Great.
Tell me more about that.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you a quick story about your alma mater.
Yeah.
When I was visiting Union to decide if I wanted to go to Union Theological, which is on the Upper West Side of New York City, Manhattan, or to Yale Divinity School, I got to take a class with Cornell West.
Yes.
And it was on Abraham Heschel, which he basically didn't restrict the number of people who could take it, because it was...
I bet it was packed.
It was packed. There were so many people. And one of the things he said, and I'll never forget, is he took a moment, because someone said something about atheists, and he said, our atheist siblings are essential to us as religious people because they tell us what we have not discovered yet, where we need to expand, what we need to do. They're a voice about what is not working or something. He sort of had this, that almost putting them in the place of a prophetic voice.
Yeah.
Does that ring for you? Did you ever take any classes with him while you were there?
I didn't. I was there during the little gap where he was elsewhere.
Okay. Yes.
I missed out on that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yes, I mean, when somebody says they're atheist, it opens up an opportunity for all sorts of questions and conversation. Because I know some people that I talk with who identify themselves as atheist, that is kind of a religious identity that they have come to, that they have thought a lot about. Sometimes they maybe used to believe in a God, but they have come to the realization that they do not. But then there are other people I talk to, particularly young people. There's a lot of young people I talk to, particularly in our coming of age classes, who say, I'm atheist. And now I want to preface this by saying I don't want it to sound like I'm saying that atheism is a phase or something. But
he'll get you eventually.
Yeah. But there are so many young people. I've seen this happen over and over again. And a parent told me recently about their kid who, identified strongly as an atheist. And over the course of coming of age, but particularly going on the Boston Heritage trip, they came home and said to their parents, I believe in God. And what that was they were thinking about God as this certain thing.
Right.
That other people believe that they don't believe. And so therefore I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God.
Right.
But then they realized, wait, there are other understandings of God, and I believe in that understanding.
Yep.
So maybe I'm not an atheist.
And now, as the minister of faith development, for me, this is often a question of faith development from this perspective. I had someone tell me once that they stopped believing God at 12. And then somewhere around their 40s went back to church and then believed in God all of a sudden, or not all of a sudden, but then had a different understanding. And I was like, yeah, well, at 12, you had this understanding, and maybe you were at a developmental phase where you started to see some of the conflicts and see some of the rigmarole, or not like some of the things religious people are doing. You just checked out.
Right. That doesn't make sense to me, or I don't like that, or yeah.
And so then, as a person matures, their sense of the divine, of God, of creation also matures, right?
Yeah. And sometimes that matures into a belief in God, but other times that matures into atheism.
Yeah.
Not believing in God.
I had
And
a
that's
great,
okay.
at another sort of online event I was doing years ago, I was trying to kind of make the case that some of our books make, that, well, it's good to know the Bible because it, in some ways, is the center of the Western canon, or these kind of like these literary arguments. And this guy was like, no, I don't think so. Everything in the Bible is terrible. And just like, he just had a really, and
It's very clear about
he was
that.
very clear. And, it made me imagine a world where religion doesn't take the place of making decisions about not just one person's life, but an entire nation's, or, religion has been used in ways that can be extremely damaging.
Sure.
And so when someone says they're atheist because of that, like all people say they're atheist, I'm like, yeah, I get that. I can't.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
makes sense.
Because the way that God has been used has hurt you and others.
Right. So one of the things that we talk about here sometimes, and I think it's one of the things that a lot of people discover when they come here, is this idea of humanism.
Yes.
And can you say more about what humanism is, or what you think humanism is?
Well, I think that all Unitarian Universalists are humanists.
Yeah.
And there's different kinds of humanism.
Yeah.
There's secular humanism, there's religious humanism, there's religious naturalistic humanism. There's all these different varieties of humanism. But I mean, at its core, it's about kind of a reverence for life, and an emphasis on the power of humanity, of human beings, the dignity, worth, and dignity of human beings, and our power to bring about change. For me, that's how I would sum up humanism. Would you add anything to that?
I would only say that when I read some of the Gospels, I'm like, oh man, Jesus was a really good humanist.
Oh, absolutely.
Cared about, and I realize this sounds like double talk to some people, but the care he had, there's so much healing.
Yeah.
So much of the Gospels is about healing people's illnesses, and about attention to people who are disturbed, and about people on the margins of society. And I know we could be accused of trying to turn, some people's savior into some kind of social justice warrior. I'm really not trying to do that. I'm talking about the care that many of those sacred scriptures have for the human in us, without regard of what they do or do not believe.
Right. He saw the humanity in every person and acted accordingly.
Right. And then other great teachers have done that too.
Absolutely.
I was thinking today about some of the offshoots of humanism, and have you ever heard of the Whitmanites?
I have not.
There is a group that made a church out of the writings of Walt Whitman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's like a thing. They're still around.
Okay.
And these other people have been looking for other inspired texts that that celebrate the humanity of us. And I don't know, I think that's kind of beautiful too.
Yeah, well, Walt Whitman does that for sure.
Okay, so we've covered atheism that kind of is atheism that might move into other things. We've talked about humanism. Agnosticism. What do they say? Atheism is the assurance that there is no God.
Yep.
Agnosticism is the openness to it being proved, or saying it can't be proved one way or the other. Is that about right?
Maybe both of those kind of. I mean, it's the I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm open to new truths or insights, but I don't know.
Right. So any given Sunday, or in things here, if anyone's watching this who identifies as one of these things, or more of them, and some who believes in God, and also as these, you can be a mix of all of these things. I had a friend, Lorna, who used to say, she was British, I have a deep and abiding faith that comes and goes. And I kind of like,
love it.
And so when someone comes here to this church, in our classes, in worship, in choir, and things like that, are they going to encounter these things by name, or what's the feeling going to be like for people? I mean, I guess I have an opinion because I'm the newest person in the pool.
Do they encounter these things by name?
Like, is someone going to say, oh, well, this is atheism, oh, well, this is humanism? Or is it more just like a feeling of all of these things are part of this?
I think it's the latter.
Yeah.
I mean, I have not experienced a ton of conversation just amongst the congregation about these things. I mean, sometimes people have conversations with me as one of their ministers about it, but yeah, I really, my sense is that it's just as a community, like, we are all of these things, all of this is welcome. Mm-hmm. So there's not any big debate about it or anything like that.
Yeah. And that's what I found too. You know, I've been in UU churches and I've heard of them and read about them that are in this sort of humanist theist divide.
Yes.
And I just haven't felt that here.
But humanism and theism can coexist within one person's faith too.
And I think this comes back to the amount of work your ministry does and the rest of the church does around developing people's understanding of faith. Mm-hmm. That those two things are not at odds.
Yeah.
And that they're not a division.
Yeah.
That they are part of the beauty, part of the cornucopia of ways we can see our world.
And also that humanism and atheism are not necessarily the same thing.
Right.
Because there's often this argument between theists and humanists, but really, like, there doesn't need to be an argument there. The disagreement, if there is a disagreement, is really between theists and atheists.
Right. Yep.
So.
And I spent a lot of my life trying to prove things beyond the shadow of a doubt, let's say, or beyond a reasonable belief. And I just, I've resigned. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to hold people where they are, and I want to welcome people where they are and see what takes root for them. Yeah. I think that's what we do here.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I share one more story?
Please.
So there is a member of our church, no longer with us, who is a strong atheist. And he and I had this wonderful conversation once about the affirmation that we say every Sunday, which of course includes the language and that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine. Mm-hmm. And so we were talking about what does divine mean to him, because most people associate divine, or that's the same thing as God.
Right.
And so he said, for me, I can say the affirmation with integrity every Sunday as an atheist, because for me, divine is a quality of relationship. It's a goodness that exists in human relationships, but also for some people in the relationship with a God.
Or the relationship with the earth.
Right, or with the earth. And I just thought that was so beautiful. And I feel like that also is reflective of this community as a whole too, and the way that we can hold all of those things within ourselves and within our community.
Yeah, I really like that. And it really comes down to, at the end of the day, I am here because this is the only faith where I can live, for me, in integrity. Mm-hmm. And so that's important. I hold up what our past members said, although they're always sort of our members, aren't they?
Yes. No, his influence lives on for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Beth, thank you for delving into this a little bit with us.
Thank you.
And to all of you out there who have questions or are wondering, if you want to talk more to one of us about these questions or any questions you have about coming here to this church with these same kind of things on your mind, I hope you will. And if you have questions about what we said here today or about anything else at all, please put them right in the comments. We'll take note and see if maybe we can address them in future episodes. But until then, like us. Sorry. But, do whatever and let us know that you're listening. Engage with us. We want to hear from you. Yeah. We're sending all of our best to you. Have a wonderful week. All the best from First Unitarian. Thanks again. Bye.